Welcome to Beyond Sprint, the podcast where I reconnect with inspiring entrepreneurs I've had the privilege to work with. I'm your host, Karlis, and today I'm joined by Scott Moran, co-founder of Finlay, a recruitment agency powered with AI agents. I first met Scott during his time in the Founders Club based out of Wise Guys. Back then, Finlay was just beginning, and it's been incredible to see their journey unfold. In this episode, we dive into Scott's transition from civil engineering to the startup world and the challenges of building an AI-powered recruitment solution. Let's get into it. Welcome to Beyond Sprint, Scott.
Hi, Karlis. Thanks for having me.
All right, where does the podcast find you?
Right now, I am based in Prague, in Czech Republic. So that's where we're kind of based, but yeah, pretty international.
Kind of based. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, if you think about, I'm from the U.S. My co-founders are from U.S., Slovakia. Here, our team's from Australia, Netherlands. So yeah, we're kind of a little bit spread all over the place, but yeah, home is in Prague for now.
Home is in Prague. I think we're going to definitely get into the theme, but maybe we could start out by you sharing a little bit about yourself and what Finlay is about to the listeners.
Yeah, can do. Well, I'm Scott, one of the co-founders of Finlay. Finlay is an AI recruitment agent and agency. We're just about 1 year old. Probably closer to 6 months in practical terms. The first 6 months is quite a, just getting things started. I'm originally from Philadelphia in the US, and I moved to Europe about 10 years ago and been here ever since.
Okay, and I think this introduction kind of leads to the first question I had in mind, because that's something I could have missed, that you're from US and now living in Prague, as you said. What led you to this decision to move to Europe from US?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I guess a lot of people ask me that. They're like, why Europe? Being in the tech environment, isn't Silicon Valley a better place to be? But the truth is, I grew up in Philadelphia, Philly. And Silicon Valley is, about as far away as Mars is. It's a big country. That was not my ecosystem. I was a civil engineer, did train railway design, no startup network. And so it was kind of Europe that actually made startups feel more reachable for me personally. And I think that's kind of where everything changed.
You mentioned this word reachable. Can you elaborate on that? What determines reachable from your perspective?
Yeah, reachable. So what happened was I kind of quit my job because I was working for a 90,000 person company and wanted to do something different. I don't know if you call it a midlife crisis so I decided to study a business degree in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam specifically. And it was kind of there that I saw this ecosystem in the Netherlands that was really built around supporting individuals in a very comfortable way through entrepreneurship. And it was very accepting, probably in a lot of ways that Silicon Valley is, and, it's okay to fail. I felt this for the first time in my life, and that was something while I was studying that really lingered in me, and I felt like it was something I needed to continue.
All right. This is something where I really want to continue asking questions regarding the Netherlands, because you're now in the Czech Republic. What is it that led you from going from Netherlands to Czech Republic?
Yeah, good one. So it was a roundabout way, and maybe I'll tell a little bit of more of a personal story around this, because it's not all rosy all the time. It was 2015, moved there for a 1 year MBA, was a professional before this. I remember at the end of the program, which was amazing, I drained all of my savings. I spent it on the degree, on the housing, on traveling, on food. A 30-year-old kind of asking their mom for a little bit of money for like that next month after, and the plan was maybe to go into consulting. I didn't have an offer, but I really saw this startup opportunity. So I took this job that barely paid any money, but it was something that felt really aligned with me. And then they grew quickly, and that's where a lot of people talk about the downside of startups. There's also the upside, right? When they grow, you grow with them. You can grow closer to the top. So I was part of this company called Park B, who's been a very successful startup on the management team. Expanded the team to London because they wanted like an English speaker, even though Britain and the US is so different. So I went to the UK, and it was there that I kind of was able to grow, learn a ton. And I got reached out to about a company called Muse, which is based in Prague. And it was the best decision I ever made. I moved here to join them as the chief operating officer.
Okay, so it kind of offer after offer, opportunity after opportunity that led you to the Prague.
And I think that's kind of like how life is. Like, it's so hard to figure out where you're going next. But when you look back down the ladder, it's quite easy why you made this decision, pivoted, moved here. And that's how I ended up here.
Okay, so then linking this to a bit more recent past, you and I, we met in the Founders Club by sort of wise guys, and back then Finlay was only at its inception phase, as you said, only 6 months after the Founders Club, more or less. You founded the company legally, right?
Yeah.
Then maybe my question would be, what was the impact the program had on the product development or the development of the idea as such?
Yeah, it was pretty huge, actually. One of the things that the program did really, really well, it gave you an opportunity to kind of test and validate and kind of figure out your product, right? And I feel like there's like two schools of thought. Like you can be coached to be like an entrepreneur, or you can, kind of be taught like a teacher. And I felt like it was like, in the best way possible, like kindergarten for entrepreneurs, because I was in there, nobody was judging me, especially yourself. And we just tinkered, we played, we were given frameworks, and then we went and validated it, talked to potential customers, and you could do all of this without, spending a lot of money, or if none, and that was quite cool.
I think you framed the tagline for Founders Club. Kindergarten for entrepreneurs. I love it. I'm going to pass it to Davide and Sergio.
I think that's like the best way to describe it, because there's a varied room of people there as well. There's people that like are in a regular career, people like me that have scaled up businesses, and so the learning curve is different from a coaching perspective. But from a foundational tool perspective, a lot like kindergarten. Just go in there, start playing with your toys, kind of direct the herd in the right direction, and see what comes out of it.
Right, and maybe what have been, let's say, one or two main frameworks or approaches you have taken from the Founders Club regarding the product development, and that's still with you?
Yeah, so the one thing that was absolutely my favorite that you introduced me to, and I think it might be a common framework, is did you call it the Crazy Eights? Or
yeah, that's the Crazy Eights, exactly.
Yeah. And so we had done this during the program, and you could probably elaborate better, but I'll give it a crack for your listeners. Basically, I think you get 8 minutes with one piece of paper. You divide it into 8 blocks, and for each minute, you kind of draw like a product iteration of that journey, and you just get it out really quick. Did I hit it? Or
pretty much, yeah.
And so, which is a really good way to kind of simplify your end-to-end product and what's important, right? The sign-on screen, blah, blah, blah. So we took that internally. I did it with my initial founders a few months later. And then a few months later, I did it with, we built a team. And I think it's been one of the most insightful, proactive ways to kind of conceptualize your product and get everyone on board.
Super. So then, still going through that memory lane, if we can call it like that. I really liked about you when you joined the Founders Club that you already had conducted this kind of experiment. So you had a customer that has already made a prepayment for receiving the service from Finlay. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So the question I have on that is, what confidence did it bring to you that there is a potential business? That particular prepayment.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the answer is probably a little bit more nuanced, but just to kind of walk through the journey, I kind of entered the program looking at like a workforce management platform, something you put your P&L in and it kind of figures out your team. And we shifted a little bit more towards like recruitment. I met up with some guys from my past and we got a customer on board and we've even changed since then, but the concept at the time was a little bit more like Tinder for recruitment directly for the hiring managers, where you swipe right and left and try to automate some of the process. And while it's not like dramatically far off now, the pain or the selling point wasn't 100% there. And if we got the buying customer, it's because we guaranteed we were going to place a role for them, right? And that was the pain point. They wanted somebody to get somebody in the seat, the next couple weeks or whatever. And at the time we hadn't completely lined up, right? We had our vision and what they wanted, and we kind of synthesized it into a paying customer. But since then we've had to iterate even more and get closer to the pain point that we're kind of addressing now.
Okay. Then maybe you can share a bit more. Okay, so you got this one client during the program who committed the prepayment. How did that relationship grow, or where did it end?
Yeah, so that's a good one actually. So what happened with this client, our first one, signed like a 10,000 euro first contract. And what we had done is we guaranteed like 3 placements and as a retainer type thing model for the year. We went on to close 8 roles for them. And I think we ended up making around probably close to like 30,000 euros off that first customer, which was quite nice. The renewal is like now. So we're working on that. And there's this chicken and an egg scenario about hiring as a platform because, it's the same problem as like we're trying to solve internally. And one of the things, maybe I can just share a little bit of what we've pivoted to, and that'll help everyone for context. So real quick backstory. We left off I moved from London to Prague. I joined Muse as the chief operating officer, and I took on a big role. So we scaled from 50 to 500 people. I didn't know I was joining a unicorn at the time. It was seed. I went to Series B. We did it with Battery Ventures, and we had 10 global offices, and I basically had to scale most of our global expansion. What that meant in practice is I spent more than 50% of my time recruiting. I was always on calls, always with people. And 2 of my co-founders are former recruiters at Muse. So we kind of teamed together. And it was something that I really understood. And I also knew people was such an emotional roller coaster, right? So the grand journey was this scale, like crazy, you're in the news, all this. We were also in hospitality, right? And COVID hit in 2020. I was completely not ready. Nobody was ready. But I had spent the past year and a half just basically hiring, right? I had all these customer teams all over the world. I wasn't a founder, so I didn't really have this founder lens. And overnight, our revenue vanished because we did a lot of transactional revenue. Yeah. And that was shut off completely. So we had to cut hundreds of people. So we hear a lot of stories about growth and recruitment AI. The other side of the coin is, a lot of people go. And these are super talented people, a lot of time you spent with them. And you see a lot of the nuance. And one of the things is recruiters have their personal brand, right? On LinkedIn, they reach out to people. The company kind of relies on them. And then everything in between is a cowboy land. And then there's this applicant tracking system. And so that cowboy land is what we've set out to kind of, finesse a little bit. And we're at this time where AI agents are becoming more available. And, we said, hey, how about we create an AI agent that can do sourcing and outreach, that can do screening calls, that can manage the relationship with the client, and knowingly pair them with a human agent, just because there is a human element to it. And so what we've created is like a managed service where we're like augmenting ourselves and not giving people another tool for now. That's in phase 2, but we're just taking that pain point off and getting them better talent faster and like super way cheaper. And so this is kind of our business. I just want to highlight this real quick. And so with our customers here, getting to a renewal is like, okay, are you hiring right now? And how do you create that sense of urgency? And it's the same problem internally. Do you let your internal recruiters go when you slow down? Do you switch to an agency, but they're expensive? And so this nuance, paradigm, if you will, is the pain point that we need to be ready for at all times.
Yeah. And how are you going about mitigating that now?
So one of the things that we are doing is understanding that the needs of our clients change month to month. So they could be slow this month and fast this month. And when you think about growing your internal recruitment team or getting a whole bunch of agencies on board, we can kind of settle that down if we can do that at a more consistent price that fits within your budget. And so we're trying to prepare for longevity and say, look, let's do this. You'll get a bigger discount. We'll be prepared for the future hiring. We educate them on their hiring plans. So this is kind of our approach right now. And you're seeing a lot of AI agents really work on like outcome-oriented pricing these days. And I think that kind of aligns really well with our model. And it's not too foreign because of like agencies have kind of set us up for success in that sense.
Well, I think what I hear that really resonates with me, it's still, when it comes to your clients, it's about forming this business relationship where you are in touch with them and understanding their changing needs, and being able to not only being there like one-off point for recruiting, but really establishing relationship where you educate them about trends and possibilities. At least that's how it sounded to me.
Yeah, exactly. And the beauty of this is one, you can be there as a companion, as a human, and that's what we do. On the other side, when they're hiring a really hard role, we've got some really nuanced roles. And if you do top-down search, you can see that, maybe there's only going to be 20 of these type of people. And then you do bottom-up with, say, a LinkedIn search, and you also see 20, and you can educate them, look, you need to maybe expand or think differently. So, and we could do that with AI in a more fluid way.
Super. But okay, let's get back to the end of the Founders Club. So by that moment, I remember you had this really simple, clickable prototype, and now 1 year forward, you have close to pre-seed round of 300K, at least as far as I checked the news on LinkedIn, and you also have a team of 8 currently.
Yes.
So I think we're probably going to agree that many teams that start out really struggle to get even there where you are. So this is already, in a way, an achievement. What helped you pull it off within this year since we worked?
Oh, yeah. Good question. I think what helped us pull it off was, to be honest, really focusing on the money pot. It mattered so much. And if you focus on the money pot, you can have your product do all of it or none of it, but it's still a money pot, right?
When you say money part, do you mean which are the features, what is customer willing to pay for?
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
There's money allocated to buy your services. And I think a lot of companies will get a little unfocused off of where the money's coming from because they've got a shiny product.
Yeah.
And we probably did it the opposite way. So we're struggling like the opposite. So now we're like, our product needs to catch up with the money, which I think is a good problem to have because there's so many tools that are, we're building every day. And we just kind of followed that direction. And if you could kind of get your product going to some degree and support it and not do scalable things for the first 10, I think that there's something really important to that, because otherwise you're doing something that's scalable from day one, but it doesn't quite resonate with the customers. And I think that's been our superpower. And these first 5 months of the year, we've had our full team on board because we got investment, and we've managed to secure as much revenue every month as we're spending on the 8 people, which is great at this stage.
I think what you're sharing is a really good example to many entrepreneurs out there, and even established ones. Still, given even the early numbers, you decided to go for VC investment, and you definitely have high aspirations for Finlay. So maybe you can share a bit more, if you have thought about it. What is your exit strategy or exit vision?
Oh, that's a good one. So, I mean, one of the things that that's a really good question. I told the investors that I don't want to necessarily be doing this for more than the next 10 years. But if I'm enjoying it, we can keep going. In short, recruitment is a $600 billion industry, and which is a crazy number. That's why I also got excited about this. 2 to 3 billion is just on like the SaaS tools, all the applicant tracking systems. 80% of the recruitment HR budget goes towards like one tool, and maybe they get a little bit more. But then there's this other $597 billion industry, which is all the internal recruiters, agencies, body shops all over the world, and they're really it's a kind of a dinosaur world, in the sense that these old agencies, if you go on their website, it's 10 guys with suit and tie that did their training session. They're going to be the new agents for the next company, and this really hasn't changed a lot. And it's a mainly hate relationship with companies, because they get into a position where there's expensive fees. It's kind of a black box. They're using them for now until they can transition internally. And I think that's just a huge money pot that we can chase. And to our success, we've always been very focused on that. And so we want to grow. We would like to do a seed raise by the end of this year, and then continue that growth strategy.
I heard you use the phrase bucket of money. I think definitely the investors must have loved it, because recently I had this experience of joining a plug and play accelerator, and I met one mentor who's also an investor, and he had a workshop that I also listened to, and he said to startups that you should have a clear definition of what is exit for you, because this is also the exit for the investors, and this is something they're looking for. And I liked in your answer how you mentioned the market size and the tools that you can potentially outcompete with your solution, and there's the huge potential, but also this personal aspect of really enjoying it, or while you enjoy it, you're there. So cool.
Yeah. I guess it could be a little bit more polished from a VC's perspective of sell to this company, IPO. I think that those are just kind of the generic answers, right? IPO is one strategy, sell to the big HR company is another. And I think the real thing here is, are you going to be a mom and pop operation to 50 million, which would be an exciting business, you know, you can make a lot of money, or are you going to have a, you know, 100x return on their portfolio? And I think, you know, balancing the opportunity that you're willing to step out at one point, but knowing how big the opportunity is probably the most important answer and all that.
I think one of my last questions, that's something you already answered. I wanted to ask, where do you expect Finlay to arrive by the end of the year? And you mentioned that you would want to have closed or started the seed round.
Yeah. Yeah, we would like to kind of start or close the seed round by the end of the year. There's a few things that we want to hit target-wise, so customer and product-wise. And once we hit those, we want to start fundraising. Okay,
so what is that missing ingredient or missing task that still needs to be done in terms of the product?
So on the product, what we've been able to do exceptionally well so far is, and just to give you a little insight of how it works, is you say, hi, I need a Python engineer, you know, based in London or whatever. And so we take that or a job description, and within seconds, not like back and forth with a human recruiter over 2 weeks, we start going out and finding all the publicly available Python engineers, not only on LinkedIn, but on their GitHub or Reddit. And what we do is we take all this information in real time, like a Skyscanner search for flights, and we're able to match them extremely well. And then what we are able to do is reach out to them extremely well and schedule follow-up calls with them. And so this is one part of it, and this is what we call sourcing. It's like finding them, matching them, outreaching. The other part is what we call screening. And so right now we're working on with a third-party company. We're doing like an avatar that we set up. Whenever you want, you can talk to it, does a screening call, it gets to know you, and it, you know, records that, gives us advice. And then following that is an agent that just kind of does everything else. It says, hey, how was that interview? Hey, here's 3 new candidates. Do you want to change the job description? And so it just connects our back end to all these things. So this screening and agent part is something we're working on this quarter. And so once we have some of these foundational pieces, it gets like 90% of the journey done, until which 10% is like human. And that's kind of our goal. And so we're about maybe 3 months away from having it to like a phase where we feel good enough for now. And then the other thing is we just want to hit some of our revenue and customer numbers. But now we're at 14 customers in 7 countries. We hit 200K in ARR, and most of it came in the last 5 months. So we have a few more customers to get, and then we're going to also go for the investment.
Given all the things you have shared, what is one thing that you want the aspiring entrepreneur to bear in mind going into their entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, it's one of those things that you need to be prepared to hang in there. And hanging in there happens in many different shapes and forms, right? Like, you know, grinding it out for another 6 months, finding a job to support it, finding the right people around you. Because it's incredibly hard. There's a million people that are going to tell you there's 10 other startups just like it. And I think just being able to hang in there is key. The other thing is we talked about, you know, follow the money, but also get people from the industry that you're serving. It's just so helpful. We've got recruiters at Muse, you know, we're hospitality people. Try to be the people that are in the industry that you're trying to solve, because it's just going to make you so much more relatable. After all, it's a human business. In whatever you do when you're selling to people. And I guess the third thing that I think is really helpful is I guess when you're building a product, to make sure that, you know, you're doing it in a way that doesn't always have to be completely different. Like the tools you use, the technology you use is the differentiator, make it better and more affordable. but it took us a while to pivot from like, here's an innovative AI agent, which is what enterprise company is going to say, I'm going to go and try that out for the first time. And you need to be like, think about the business first. And what they like is the same. So you come in and you say, hey, are you hiring? No. Fine. Hey, are you hiring? Yes, but we don't do agencies. Fine. Hey, we're hiring. We do work with agencies. And we say, okay, great. We're like that, but we're cheaper, faster, better. And that's just a very consistent feel. And it doesn't always have to feel different. What you're doing is different, but they need to feel comfortable. And selling the same is something that doesn't get talked about enough. And I think that's been really helpful.
Selling the same but better. All right, that's I think a good way how to close this conversation. So Scott, thank you very much for finding time in your busy schedule. Highly appreciate that, and I wish the best of luck for Finlay in the remaining 2025. And looking forward to seeing the post on LinkedIn that you have closed the seed round.
Thanks, Karlis. Thanks for having me, and really excited about your podcast and what you're doing is incredible. You helped me, and I can imagine you're helping a lot of other people. And so, yeah, grateful to be here today.
That wraps up my conversation with Scott. Let's take a moment to reflect on my key takeaways. First, kindergarten for entrepreneurs. Scott's description of the Founders Club highlights the importance of a supportive environment for early stage founders to play and validate ideas without fear of judgment. Second, follow the money path. Scott emphasized that critical need to focus on where the money is coming from and what customers are willing to pay for. This pragmatic approach is a powerful strategy for early traction and sustainability. And finally, selling the same but better. Scott's insight that entrepreneurs should aim to sell the same but make it cheaper, faster, better is a valuable lesson. It highlights that companies often seek familiar solutions with a better and more efficient offering. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, follow Scott and check out Finlay to see how they are transforming recruitment. And don't forget to subscribe to Beyond Sprint for more conversations with founders building meaningful change. Till next time.